No worry now.
Incarnation. Or that intro was more trouble than it was worth. Anyway, you ever have one of those projects you just don't want to start on? This was that one. I just couldn't get the energy. This stuff is hard work, I'll tell you. And anyway, Mamamoo, it was long ago, just released their new mini album, WAW, W-A-W, where are we, I guess? It's really good, it has some beautiful, beautiful stuff on it, but it has its flaws as well. And I'm not going to get into all that yet, I'm not going to do some long-winded intro, don't have much to say, let's just hop into the first track. Where Are We Now is the first track on the album, mini-album, EP, whatever the appropriate term would be. I'm going to stick with album throughout the rest of this just because that's easy to say and to remember. That is probably my favorite on the album. It's sort of tied with Destiny Part 2. They both have some pros and cons and everything. This is probably my favorite though, just because it's a good song. There's really not a bad part to it. I mean, that's like, the Moonbill rap section is a Moonbill rap section. It's fantastic. The just chorus is beautiful and incredibly powerful, and that one part of the song, and you know the part I mean. Goosebumps every time, I tell you. There's one part that, especially vocally, that stands out to me so much more than anything else, and that's Wien's, I guess, intro to the pre-chorus, or just the pre-chorus itself. I don't actually know which it would be, but I briefly touched upon this in my reaction, and I was like, this sounds like a hymn. Is this a hymn? And I know a lot of things, but I don't know hymns. So I went to someone I consider to be an expert on them, that person being my mom, and she very quickly identified it as the power of the power of the cross by Keith and Kristen Getty, I think. Yeah, it's very similar. It's not 100% the same, but it's the same tune.
To see the dawn of the darkest day.
Now, I don't want to go accusing Mamamoo or whoever wrote the song for them or whatever of plagiarism. Now, I don't know how this came about or where they got the tune from or anything. It was, for me, just going, hey, I know that, that's pretty cool. And it being this hymn, it gave me sort of flashbacks to church and gave the song not a glorious feel. It's not the right word. It wasn't holy or anything like that. I don't know what the word would be, but it doesn't really matter. It gave it a deeper feeling, whatever that deeper feeling is. Now, the vocals are, of course, the strongest part of this song. They are the focus of this song, but this isn't an a cappella song. This has instruments in it, and so I have to talk about those. And as a quick disclaimer going into all of this, I don't know anything about music composition, music theory, writing music, anything like that, so full honesty, I'm BSing my way through this right now. I could say something ridiculously stupid. If I do, just let me know down in the comments and I'll issue some kind of correction. That said, this is an incredibly simple song. It's not bad because of its simplicity, though. Simplicity can be bad. For an example, within K-pop, I wish I had it next to me, but it's in the other room. On Blackpink's The Album, the track Ice Cream featuring Selena Gomez. It's a good song. You know, I dance along to it, I vibe, it's fun, but it's boring. The entire song, aside from really, I guess, Lisa's rap section to the end, and even then this thing continues, it is the same 3-note pattern. Technically, I think it's actually 2 notes, but one of them repeats twice, so 3-note pattern. Same thing the entire song.
미친 듯한 속도 in my life.
All I can think about is how it's the same thing. It's boring. It doesn't do anything cool, at least not to me. Simplicity in that sense can be very boring, but this is not simplicity just because it's the same thing over and over again or there's not much happening. This is simplicity with an express purpose. These instruments don't call attention to themselves. The piano is the only one I can really remember, aside from the drum beat, which I'll get into in a second. I think there was some acoustic guitar in there, but honestly I can barely remember that. They don't serve to make you go, oh, that's some really nice piano, oh, that's some really nice guitar, nothing like that. They serve to elevate the voices. So, with that in mind, they fully serve their purpose, and it becomes something just, oh yeah, that's really simple to... That's beautiful. The one element that does stand out is the beat, which kicks in during Moonbyul's rap section and then sort of elevates when whoever's singing after her is singing, I can't remember who.
Talking about where we going? 어디론가 날 데려가 줄래? On and on, we on the road. 싱겁게 달려왔다.
And that's just because it's something new coming in, not because it's anything crazy. It's very simple, but all the more beautiful because of it. And as a final thing to say with the song, there is an audio sample of like people talking or shouting or something. I've tried to look into this, I can't find anything. I've asked around, no one's answered me. I don't know what this is, I don't know why it's there. If any of you know, put it down in the comments, because I really want to know. But I can't speak on that. Alright, tracks 2 and 3, Another Day and A Memory for Life. I don't have much to say here, this is going to be a very quick section. Now you may be asking, why are you grouping these together? They're different songs, surely you can say stuff on each one. I can, but I'm not stretching it out that much. And it's not because I don't have much to say on them. I could stretch it out and talk about each of them individually. They'd just be 2 very short sections. The reason I'm talking about them together is because my ideas on each bounce off of each other. They tie together, and I really view these 2 songs more as not necessarily a single thing, but a continuation of each other. They flow together instead of being their full, unique elements, which I'm not saying very well, but hopefully my idea is being conveyed. Anyway, Another Day, worst song of the album, hands down. It's not bad in the slightest, it's just very forgettable. I can't remember how the song goes. I remember I liked the drums in it, and I remember the intro synths. Are they synths? I remember the intro thing. I said I remember the drums, I remember I liked them, I have no idea what they did. The only thing that stood out to me was the intro synths, and that's just because they remind me of No Thanks off of Williams Red, and that was not because it was the same thing. I was like, oh, these sound the same. Clearly they're the same thing. That's what my mind was doing with that. That's all I can remember from that song. It's good, but I'm not gonna seek it out and listen to it, anything like that. A Memory for Life, though, everything Another Day wanted to be. Everything. every flaw in that song is improved upon. It's still a bit forgettable, it's still... I don't really remember much from it, but it is so much better. Also, that electric guitar in that one section... beautiful. I love that kind of thing. I'm gonna end up falling over this crate. I'm staying in the video. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, Remember for Life, I love the electric guitar in it. These songs, they do bounce off of each other. When I get into all the lyrics and the themes and everything, I'll talk about this more. These two songs flow from one to the other. They aren't their own thing. They are each different songs with slightly different focuses, but they go from Another Day, that's the song, to Memory for Life. It's not like that, but it's boom, boom. It's two steps in a journey instead of one solid thing. I'm not explaining this well, I'm sorry. Anyway, these songs really function well within the context of the album. It would certainly be much lesser without them, not just because at that point it would only be 2 songs, but outside of the album, they're really just some good songs. They don't do much. Destiny Part 2, though? Whoo boy, that's a masterpiece! The piano at the beginning, the vocal power that Destiny Part 1, Destiny was slightly lacking, the acoustic guitar in the chorus, the shifts throughout it. This song is near perfect. Now, near perfect, why not fully perfect? Very simple reason, my boy Ratata ain't here. Song's lacking some serious ra-ta-ta. Go! Oh my god! I don't know how they could have gotten it in, but they should have. I'm joking, of course. The song is not ruined in the slightest by the lack of it. But I do wish they'd included it somehow. Now, the most, I guess, interesting part of this song for me is the lyrics, or are the lyrics. However you use proper grammar, I sure as heck don't know. The lyrics are really interesting when you look into them. Now, right off the bat, to me, it sounded like, oh, this is just sort of a re-recording, or more actually reimagining, of Destiny. I didn't notice any change in the lyrics. Now, if you spoke Korean, you probably would notice. I don't speak a word of Korean. But when I started looking into them, there's some differences there. Now, before I will say all my lyrics are translations. I'm going to take the ones from Genius. I don't know how accurate these are, so I don't know how many differences are just things like, oh, here's 2 different translators looking at this a slightly different way, or something like that. But there are differences, and I'll get into those, but I do need to grab my computer so I can actually look at the lyrics. Now, the changes here are incredibly subtle, and I think the best example of one of the big changes is in the first line from verse 2 of Destiny and the first line from verse 1 of Destiny Part 2, which is where they sync up. So if you look at Boom, Destiny Part 2, what difference are you seeing? Hopefully this showed up on camera. Take a moment, see if you can find the difference. It's very subtle. Look at the 4th character. I'm not going to try to point because I will miss it. You see that very subtle change? And I'm not going to go into what the actual character is and what it means, because I'm not smart enough to do that. I'm going to end up getting it wrong. But the lines themselves, in Destiny, it says, "You pushed me away without any more regrets," while Destiny Part 2 said, "I pushed you away with no regrets." So a shift from you to I. The other major difference I noticed like that was in Destiny, where it said, I can't speak, "I was foolish, I hated you," and then Destiny Part 2 says, "You were stupid, I hated you." So very close lines, just again a shift from I to you or you to I, that kind of thing. All the other stuff I noticed was basically just a rephrasing that I think was probably just a difference of translation. There was one other big change I saw in Destiny. It ends with the line, "We won't desert each other now." Completely missing in part 2. So I'll just set this down because I don't really need the lyrics anymore. I'm gonna fall. That being missing, along with the sort of slower, I guess slower feel of the song, gives it a much more somber feeling. Now, I really can't talk about the meaning of Destiny Part 2, and like the full meaning, not just, oh, here's a few differences that are interesting. I can't talk about that without talking about the album as a whole, partially because it's so short that it's easier to do it in that form, partially because everything does tie together incredibly deeply. So, into the lyrical analysis. I had to think long and hard about how I classify this album. It was, frankly, a lot harder than it should have been. Finally, I decided on a concept album. It's very close to a themed album. It's not a set story, beginning to end, conflict, plot, all that. But it is a story. It is all this specific thing. It is all about them, and it is about them. I think it could be argued that a lot of the songs here function as, not necessarily love songs, but that kind of thing. And look, art can be interpreted in many ways. That is not necessarily an incorrect interpretation, but it being about them is sort of the correct interpretation, which I know is sort of a pretentious thing to say, oh, the interpretation I have is the correct one, everyone else is wrong. I should step forward. No, that is a pretentious, sort of stupid thing to say. The reason I say that is in an interview, or not an interview, an article from NME, whatever that stands for. They said that, oh my god, I gotta look at this again. Mamamoo stated that the album was, and this is direct quotation here, an opportunity to reflect on the past 7 years of their career. So, it's sort of coming straight from the primary source. Maybe it's about them. That is the intent. Intent and interpretation, different things. I can make something and say, alright, this is about this thing, and someone's going to say, well, to me it means this thing. Then it means that thing, But I'm going about the intent here, along with my personal interpretation, which does line up with the intent. So, into the more, specific analysis, starting off track 1, again, where are we now? This is much like Watercolor on Red, an overview of the album. It deals with all the themes you're going to see come up. It is an introduction to the story. It's a very simple reflection on the past, where they were versus where they are now, and thinking about that. Very simple. Another Day is sort of a look back on all the great stuff. This is where you start to get into some much more specific story elements. It's a look back on all the great stuff from their past, and then it's looking at where they are now, all this just bad stuff, really, struggles and conflicts and arguments, and it's just like, can we go back to the good old times? Can we move past this? And then, A Memory for Life is a continuation of that. I said I'd get around to this. It is all this just harder, all these harder things are still going on, and they're starting to feel the weight from it. Within the song itself, it mentions, I wrote this down, I'm going to be moving a lot. Not a direct quotation, but it talks about how they're falling apart. And then Another really interesting thing, I'm probably not on screen, I apologize for that. The end of the chorus talks about how no matter how hard they try, it won't change, and I will get into that in the more broad look at all this stuff. Finally, Destiny Part 2 is the end of the story. It's where they are now. They've split off and gone in all their different ways, something I imagine is talking about their solo careers, because by now they have all released their own solo albums. Let's see, Dark Side of the Moon for Mamamoo, Red for Wien, Maria for Huasa, and is it Spit It Out for Solar? I haven't listened to that one yet. I still need to. I actually haven't. Red's the only one I fully listened to. Ow. But that's irrelevant. They've all gone and done their own solo stuff. They've split up and they've come back together. And that's where it ends. I'm sure there is some meaning behind the lack of the I promise we won't desert each other now, or whatever the specific line was in Destiny. I don't know. I can't get anything. It's too much time and energy to try to BS my way through something, and I don't want to say something outlandish and horribly interpret this, and so I'm just going to say, yeah, I don't have anything with this. That's more honest, and y'all are getting something better from that anyway, I'd say. Now, there's another reason I'm not getting into that, not getting into sort of the very specific thing with that, because, well, yes, I don't know what to say. There's more than that. This is not an album made of specific things. This is a very broad album. Look, if this was a specific album, I could not relate to it at all. I can't relate to being in a K-pop group, and I probably never will. That's a really weird thing to say, isn't it? I can't relate to making music, which, given that I have a channel dedicated to music stuff, I probably should relate to that, but I don't. I can't relate to that stuff. If this was a specific album about those things, there'd be nothing here for me. But this isn't. This is a broad album. You know, I can't relate to stuff like that, but I can relate to... I actually wrote down some things I need to look at again, because I can't remember stuff. So this album is not just about their story, it is about growth and change and the past versus the present and the future and stuff like that. I can't relate to, like I said, being in the K-pop industry or making music or anything like that. But I can relate to looking back at where I was and then looking at where I am now as a person. I can relate to feeling like no matter how hard I try, nothing's changing. I can relate to wishing I could go back to the good old times. Those are things we can all relate to some extent. This is an album not just about being in the music industry. This is not just about Mamamoo. This is an album about very human themes, very human emotions, which is the greatest, or not necessarily the greatest, but one of the greatest strengths of this album, is that what it talks about, while it does have a specific story, it is a specific story with very broad themes, so anyone can go to this and get something from it. This album has a lot of strengths. It's got some beautiful music, it has some fantastic themes in it, and I'm sure there's something else I could say, I got nothing. But even though it is a very strong album, it is flawed. You know, I love longer form stuff. Let's take a look at my personal collection. Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. Ends with Hallowed Be Thy Name, 7 minutes long. Iron Maiden's known for long songs. A Matter of Life and Death, if I can get it out. I don't think a single song dips below 5 minutes. This is actually very good luck. And Book of Souls ends with Empire of the Clouds. 16 minutes long? Hold on, I gotta check. This is what happens when you start improvising instead of going by a script. 18 minutes long. I'm just pulling stuff off. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about. Redneck Vikings from Hell, Aether Realm. Ends with an 11-minute long instrumental track. Their other album, or their previous album, Taro, ends with a 19-minute long song. The collection is full of this stuff. Somewhere on here, I'm not seeing it. Wait, here it is. Sword and I by Cowan. One song, 50 minutes long. I know a longer song than that. Mirror Reaper by Bell Witch. It's like 80 minutes long. I love longer form stuff, especially for more emotional things. Mirror Reaper is beautiful. It is this over an hour long look at life and death and our relationship with it. And you can just turn it on in a dark room and just listen and reflect on it. It's beautiful. And you don't get long form stuff in K-pop. This album, the one I'm reviewing today, 15 minutes long. Blackpink's the album is, well, I gotta check the lengths again. 25 minutes. 23 minutes. This is a long one, 37 minutes. 37 minutes? Am I reading that right? 37 minutes, that's long. That's almost as long as Iron Maiden. Alright, that's actually a long album. Man, I get distracted by the dumbest stuff. Anyway, long form stuff is not in K-pop. And I always, when I'm talking about K-pop stuff, I joke about, oh, I wish it was longer, I wish it was longer. I'm never serious about that. It's just, I like long form stuff. This right here, I gotta move all this stuff again. This is the one time where I would say that length legitimately harms an album. Now, I don't want them to bloat the thing. I don't want them to put in unnecessary stuff to try to increase the runtime or anything like that. This length works, but for me, if it was 20 minutes, if it was 25 minutes, 25 minutes would actually be great. If it was 25 minutes, 20 minutes is reasonable. I'd have no complaints. That is a good amount of time to sit and reflect and think, and I guess reflect and think are pretty much the same thing, and just soak it in. 15 minutes is just slightly too short. Now, another issue I have with the album is it being all ballads. I don't like ballads much. Hold on, I take that back. I like ballads. I wouldn't want a full album of them. Here's the thing though. These are things that I don't like about the album. These are flaws. These are weaknesses. They don't harm the album for me. And to talk about that, you won't have any more of me sitting down or standing up again. Like I said, these flaws don't ruin the album for me. These were things that I planned on talking about a lot more. But as I've listened to this album, both to do this and just because I like this album, these flaws have faded away. It's short, but it doesn't need to be longer. I'd like it to be longer, but the length works. I don't like ballads much. Again, I take that back. I like ballads. I wouldn't like a full album of ballads. And yet I like this. These flaws have faded away. I was going to talk about how, I pre-ordered this thing, and had I known it was only going to be 4 tracks, it was going to be super short, it was going to be all ballads, I wouldn't have pre-ordered it. I wouldn't have. But as I listen to it now, I was going to say, it's not something I regret, it's a good album, but it's gone beyond that. It is something that now I would buy this. Not right now, I'd wait until I could get it for cheaper, because I think it'll still be like $40 to get it. That's including shipping, of course, but $40 is just too much, but I would buy this. I was going to sit there, I wouldn't buy it, but I'd definitely listen to it, I'd enjoy it. This is now something I'll be like, I would buy this. This is beautiful. This is something so much greater than beautiful. So, this is a flawed album, but the flaws have gone away. And I'm sure there's some great artistic thing I could say, but there isn't. I was going to talk about the flaws, they don't matter anymore. It is a flawed album, but isn't every album? At least the flaws don't stand out. I can enjoy this album. I don't notice the flaws. So, as far as albums go, with every album being flawed, this is a flawless album.
한없이 행복해.
Alright, final thoughts. I think I've said everything that needs to be said. This is a beautiful album. It's very short, yes, but it's good. It has... There are a lot of people talk about how this is like a tearjerker. It is. I don't cry. I don't know what's up with that. I know that sounds like some kind of really weird brag. It's not. Well, for whatever reason, I don't cry, but I understand why people were saying that. This is a tearjerker, especially looking at the lyrics. There's some powerful stuff in here. I don't have much to say for final thoughts. Just look, if you haven't listened to this album yet, do it. It won't take up much of your time. Like I said, it's only like 15 minutes long. And if you have listened to this album, go and listen to it again. What harm can it do? Yeah, that's it. That's my review. This was a good album. Honestly, 10 out of 10. I only took a second to think about that rating. It's like, is that a 10 out of 10? That's a 10 out of 10. The flaws, like I said, have faded away. Perfect album. Go and listen to it if you haven't. Listen to it again if you have. So, you made it to the outro. You may notice I'm wearing a different shirt. I'm having to refilm this a few weeks later because I took forever to edit this thing and I completely destroyed the audio in the outro somehow with something I did. Don't ask me what, I don't know. But anyway, if you liked what you saw, consider checking out my reaction to Where Are We Now and my unboxing video of the album. I do have some stuff that I talked about in here, in both of them, and sort of introduce a lot of the things I talked about in here as well. And they're just good videos, so you won't regret it. If you like what you saw, like, comment with your own thoughts on the album and anything like that, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff. Sometime soon I'll have some metal reviews coming out, which should be pretty good. And yeah, that is going to do it for the video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll be seeing ya.